Hey everyone, another 3 months have passed, so let's go over everything I picked up during the months of October, November, and December to end the year of 2022. I'll also be opening up the 3 boxes from Retro Game Treasure for those months as well. Just like all the other videos, the vast majority of the games were bought used at thrift stores. However, there are a couple more brand new games compared to normal. And I did actually update my preferences for the Retro Game Treasure boxes because I wanted to try out a couple of the new systems that they offer. Just quickly, if you're unaware about Retro Game Treasure, it's a subscription service that sends video games right to your door. I am a subscriber, they did not send me anything for a review, they have no idea that I'm making this video, and they have no influence over what I say. So with that out of the way, let's check out what Retro Game Treasure sent me for the month of October 2022. For this month, I hadn't updated my preferences just yet. However, this is the month that made me want to try something new. At this moment, I was still looking for only cartridge Nintendo games and GameCube games. And first off, we have Castlevania II Simon's Quest for the original Nintendo. Both the case and the label are in pretty decent shape. There are a couple of little scuff marks, but nothing major. This is actually a game that was on my wish list, which is always nice to get. My NES collection is starting to have some pretty big name titles, and honestly, the vast majority of them have come from this service. This is a franchise that has, for the most part, passed me by. While I have played some of the games on the NES Classic Edition, being able to get original copies of the games is something every collector wants. Next, we have Men in Black for the Game Boy Color, and honestly, I didn't even know this game existed, and I have zero idea how it's going to play. As for the label, it is pretty scratched up, and there's a decent sized stain on the left side of it, but it's not actually ripped at all. I have a feeling this is going to end up being one of those throw-in games just to fill out the box. And to end the box, we have Need for Speed Underground for the Game Boy Advance. This is another loose cartridge, which I am starting to get a little frustrated at. I'm definitely starting to end up with a big stack of loose handheld games, and storing them is starting to become a bit of an issue for me. As for the cartridge itself, the label does look to be in decent shape, and I can't find any major marks or scuffs on it. So I used the Retron 5 to test all the cartridges and make sure that they work. And first up was Castlevania II Simon's Quest, and it worked perfectly fine. Honestly, I'm really bad at these games, but I am a fan of the franchise and I really want to add them all to my collection. I don't have many Castlevania games in my collection, but this is a good start. Men in Black for the Game Boy Color seems to be a side-scrolling action game where you basically keep walking to the right and shoot enemies. I didn't get very far into the game to know if it changed up the style partway through, as it just wasn't very entertaining. While the controls were responsive and the graphics weren't horrible, the actual concept and gameplay was uninspired and pretty boring. Need for Speed Underground for the Game Boy Advance was a totally different experience. The graphics in this game were really bad, especially when blown up on a TV. So I also tried it handheld. While it did look a little bit better, it wasn't a very big difference to say anything good about it. The driving, on the other hand, felt fantastic. It felt incredibly smooth and responsive. Drifting and turning happened basically how you would imagine it would, and I was really surprised. It's just a shame that the visuals are so bad that I doubt I'll have a lot of desire to pick this up again. Opening up the cartridges, I didn't notice anything wrong with any of the 3 games in terms of authenticity, and I did look up their current values on pricecharting.com. Also, it should be noted that all values are as of January 11th, 2023. Currently, Castlevania II Simon's Quest goes for $14.94 US or $20.06 Canadian. Men in Black for the Game Boy Color is currently valued at $5.39 American or $7.24 Canadian, and Need for Speed Underground currently goes for $10.50 American or $14.10 Canadian. So recently, I saw they started offering Xbox One and PS4 games, and while I originally didn't want to change my settings, I am starting to get tired of getting handheld games that I'm not really going to play very often. So I decided to remove Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance from my preferences, and I added in Xbox One and PS4 to see what kind of games they're going to send. So I currently have original Nintendo, Super Nintendo, 64, GameCube, Xbox One, and PS4 as my desired consoles. I also have it mentioned in the notes that I am okay with DS and 3DS games as long as they have a case. So let's see what they sent in November from the updated preferences. So first up we have Ninja Gaiden for the original Nintendo. While I have my preferences stated that condition is key for me, I am still surprised by how nice some of these old cartridges look, as the case and label look to be in pretty good shape. I actually don't have any Ninja Gaiden games in my collection at all, but I was always keeping an eye out for them but never found any. Although this was on my wish list, so good on them for having a wishlist game 2 boxes in a row. Next up, we have a sealed copy of Fallout 76 for the PS4. It does have the slipcover, but it's actually ripped and missing a portion of it. The first PS4 game they sent me, and it's one that was known to be overwhelmingly glitchy. To be fair, I have heard that the game runs a lot better now compared to its release, but it's not exactly an in-game demand for the system. The first couple of boxes with PS4 and Xbox One games, I didn't put any wishlist games because I wanted to see if they would just send whatever might normally be in a discount bin, and I think that might be the case. Next, we have the Day 1 edition of Deus Ex: Mankind Divided, and this is actually also still sealed. This is something that I might be a bit more interested in trying out compared to Fallout 76, but again, this is something that I've seen at GameStop for a pretty low price. But that's now 2 PS4 games in the first updated box. And finally, to end it, we have The Scorpion King: Rise of the Acadian for the GameCube, and the game is actually complete, which is always a good thing. Both the disc and manual look to be in decent shape. I honestly have no idea what type of game this is, so we can all find out together. No Xbox One games, but they did send 2 PS4 games, so you can tell they actually check if you updated your preferences before packing every box. Giving the games a test, we can see Ninja Gaiden, and it's playing just fine. Just like the Castlevania franchise, this is a franchise that has passed me by until recently. Since I never played them growing up, I tend to struggle with these games now. But I do feel like I'm better at Ninja Gaiden when compared to Castlevania, but honestly, that's not saying much. The Scorpion King: Rise of the Acadian is a 3D action game. The game definitely has old 3D graphics, which don't look too bad considering the era the game is from, but by no means is it a good looking game. The movement and gameplay is okay, it's a little janky and the camera doesn't help at all. It is nice to get GameCube games from Retro Game Treasure, as that's a system I tend to not find games for very often, but hopefully one time a GameCube game will be the focal point of the box instead of an add-on to fill out the box. Sealed games not only take away their need for opening up and checking for authenticity, but because a lot of the games I can play either through Game Pass or PS Plus, I figure I probably won't open the cases right away. I'm not someone who really cares about collecting sealed games, but if I already have a means to play the game another way, I don't really see the point in opening the case. So, since I'm keeping them sealed for now, I checked the prices for them as sealed games, and Deus Ex: Mankind Divided goes for $7.86 American or $10.55 Canadian, while Fallout 76 is valued at $6.92 American or $9.30 Canadian. Although I know Fallout 76 should be priced a little lower considering the cover sleeve is ripped. I did open up Ninja Gaiden just to be sure and everything looked fine, and a loose copy of the game is valued at $12.97 American or $17.42 Canadian, and currently a complete copy of The Scorpion King: Rise of the Acadian goes for $8.33 American or $11.18 Canadian. And now for the final box of 2022, the box for December. At this point, I still haven't added any wishlist games for the newer consoles, as this gives a better baseline as to what type of games they prefer to send. First up we have Ninja Gaiden 2: The Dark Sword of Chaos, and the label and case look to be in fantastic condition. In 2 months, I now own the first 2 Ninja Gaiden games for the NES, and I gotta say, I do appreciate it when they send me multiple games within a franchise. It's a great way for me to build up that collection. Next, we have Carnival Games for the Nintendo DS, and this is a complete copy of the game. Everything about the game looks to be in near perfect condition. I was never really expecting Game Boy games to be boxed because of the type of boxes they originally came in, but loose DS games really bothered me when they were originally sold with a high quality case. Third in the box, we have a sealed copy of Rage 2 for the PS4. Honestly, I don't really care if the games are sealed, and I understand that it technically makes them more valuable, but they're all still easily available at places like GameStop. So PS4 games being sealed seems like a way they can say they're giving out higher value games compared to what the game is really worth. And to end the box, we have a sealed copy of Battle Chasers Night War for the Xbox One. Just like the PS4 games, it doesn't surprise me that this is a sealed copy. These are all games that you'll typically find in the bargain bin at stores, and honestly, Trying out the PS4 and Xbox One games from the service doesn't seem to be anything fantastic so far. I'm probably going to keep them on my preference list for another couple of boxes and see if they get any better, but I'm definitely going to be changing up my wish list for them. Getting another game for my wish list means that all 3 boxes had a game that I was personally seeking, and shows that they really do check each person's profile. So I definitely suggest making sure you fill out as much of the form as you can if you decide to use the service. Ninja Gaiden 2 plays in a very similar fashion to the original, which doesn't really surprise me. This was back in an era when sequels on the same console often shared a lot of similarities with the original game, and I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with taking a working formula and expanding on what worked. Carnival Games for the DS is a collection of Carnival mini-games. The games are incredibly short and often make use of the stylus. While I can see this being rather enjoyable for a young kid, it's not really the type of game I'm going to put a lot of time into. Even though I changed my preferences to try to avoid having games sent to me that aren't really something I'm going to play a lot, they still managed to find a way to send me one. At least this one has a case though. Just like the previous box, this one had 2 sealed games that I don't think I'm going to open at this point. So the sealed copy of Battle Chasers Night War for the Xbox One is currently valued at $8.22 American or $11.04 Canadian, while Rage 2 for the PS4 goes for $8.25 American or $11.08 Canadian. Opening up Ninja Gaiden 2 The Dark Sword of Chaos, I don't see anything wrong with the board and everything looks authentic to me. A loose copy of the game currently goes for $14.62 American or $19.63 Canadian. DS games, however, are something that I'm not going to open solely for the reason of I find it basically impossible to open without ruining the cartridge in some capacity. A complete copy of Carnival Games currently goes for $5.38 American or $7.22 Canadian, making it the cheapest game of the 3 boxes. And there we have the 3 boxes from Retro Game Treasure to end the year. But now, let's move on to my final pickups for 2022. Starting with the original Xbox, we have Jade Empire, Counter-Strike, and Pirates: The Legend of Black Cat, and all 3 are complete. Here we can see Jade Empire playing and working just fine. I had always heard about the game, but I had actually no idea what the point of the game was or how it would play. While it does seem like it has an interesting concept, the actual gameplay definitely shows its age. Next, we have Myst 4 and Gun, which are both complete, as well as Sega GT 2002 and Jet Set Radio Future Combo Pack, which is missing the booklet for Jet Set Radio Future. Even though the disc has both games on the one disc, the booklet only contains information on Sega GT, so I'm assuming it's missing the other one. Jet Set Radio Future is a game that still looks really good to this day. The cel-shaded graphics helps prevent the game from looking too dated. The gameplay also felt incredibly smooth to skate around, and it was easy to just skate around the opening area, just having fun. For the Xbox 360, we have Big Bumpin', Pocket Bike Racer, and Ninja Gaiden 2, and all 3 games are complete. So yes, I went from 0 to 3 Ninja Gaiden games during this span. Ninja Gaiden 2 for the 360 is a 3D action game, and the short amount of time that I played was really enjoyable. While I did feel like the camera was a bit of an issue, I really enjoyed the gameplay. I just felt like the combat was extremely satisfying. The game also has some really good graphics. Not only the character models, but instances of waterfalls in the background looked pretty good considering the game's age. Also for the Xbox 360, we have complete copies of Fear 2, Condemned 2 Bloodshot, and a steelbook for Halo 3. Here we can see Fear 2 playing, and it's a first-person shooter. I really appreciated some of the small aspects to the game. Instances like where the AI enemies could put up a table for cover and things of that nature. There were a lot of shooters in this era of gaming, and this is the type of thing that can help games stand out amongst the crowd. The game has decent graphics and the gameplay was relatively smooth, but having things like competent AI is definitely a good aspect. A fun fact about me that might annoy some people is that I've had a PS1 in my closet for quite some time now, but I actually never owned any games for the system as I found the system at a thrift store and basically forgot about it. So I finally decided to find me a couple of PS1 games to start my collection. I found them used on Amazon and I decided to pick up complete copies of Final Fantasy VII and Chrono Cross. I figured if I'm gonna get my very first PS1 games, there's no better place to start than with these 2 games. Something that may surprise people is that as of right now, I've actually never played the original Final Fantasy VII in its entirety. While I have beaten the remake on PS4, I'm aware that it's not the entire story, so now I can finally experience the original version of the game. Moving on to other PlayStation consoles, we have a complete copy of Harvey Birdman for the PS2, as well as complete copies of Assassin's Creed 3 and Mass Effect 3 for the PS3. I had no idea there was a Harvey Birdman game, so I was intrigued to try it. The game has a lot of cutscenes. Luckily, they are basically TV quality, and you go through different scenarios where you end up having a trial. You need to collect evidence and present them to the court. If you're not a fan of the show and you don't enjoy the style of humor, then maybe this won't be for you. Moving on to Nintendo, for the Wii, I found Toy Story Mania at a thrift store, while I managed to find Super Mario Galaxy 2 and Wario Land Shake It used on Amazon, and they're all complete copies of the games. Here we can see Wario Land Shake It playing, and it's a great game. It looks great, and it plays great. The game is a side-scrolling game that does make use of the Wii motion controls, but while it's an aspect of the game, it's not the focal point, which I really appreciate. Most games I collect are random games that I found at thrift stores, but both Galaxy 2 and Wario Land Shake It were games that I specifically looked for, which is why I found them used online instead of randomly out in the wild. For the GameCube, I managed to pick up Sonic Mega Collection and Pokemon Diamond for the DS, and both are complete copies. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw Pokemon Diamond at my local thrift store, and the fact that it was complete was a massive shock to me. While it was the most expensive used game I found during these 3 months, I still paid less than it's currently valued. But more importantly, it's a game that I really wanted to add to my collection, so I'm extremely happy to have it. Next, we have the 4 brand new games I managed to get. I got the TMNT Cowabunga collection for the Xbox Series X, Pokemon Violet, Mario + Rabbids Sparks of Hope for the Switch, and my buddy gave me Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart for the PS5 as a gift for the holidays. Here we can see Sparks of Hope playing, and honestly, I think it's a shame that the game has basically been looked at like it hasn't lived up to expectations. Within a week or so of the game's release, I feel like most people had already moved on from it, but personally, I beat it and I had a blast the entire way through. And finally, as you might have seen on my video on the console, I managed to pick up the God of War PS5 console as a gift, which I'm extremely happy to have. I'm currently about 10 hours into Ragnarok and I'm really enjoying it, and as soon as I'm done, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart will be the next game I play on the system. Personally, I think this was a great 3 months of adding games to my collection. While it wasn't as large of a collection as some of the other months, I started being more specific about what I bought. Specifically, using places like Amazon to search for Galaxy 2 and Final Fantasy VII does take away the thrill of finding big-name games at the thrift stores, but it allowed me to start filling in the gaps in my collection that have bothered me the most. While I'm not going to stop going to thrift stores because finding games like Pokemon Diamond is such a massive thrill, I think moving forward in 2023, I'm going to be buying less games for the sake of having a larger collection, and instead I'm going to be buying games that I specifically set out to find. My collection is still missing a lot of games that I would love to have. Games like Paper Mario Thousand Year Door come to mind, and I know finding a game like that will take up a decent amount of my gaming budget for the month, so I'm going to be searching and buying accordingly. But let me know down in the comments what games you managed to pick up before the year ended. I'd love to know what you added to your collection, and if you want to see what else I found during the year of 2022, then be sure to check out this video right here.